Hello and welcome to Makers.dev, episode number 116. Chris, 116 could be interpreted as November 6th. There were two U.S. presidents who were inaugurated on November 6th, one of them in 1860 with only 40% of the popular vote, and another one in 1900. Can you name either president?
Oh, 100 years ago? Teddy Roosevelt?
Nope.
Oh, then no.
It's a good guess. It's a good default guess. There's another, it's not George Washington, you know that, but there's another default guess that, like, when you're asking a question about
Lincoln,
presidents,
yeah.
You got it. It's Lincoln
right.
is one of them.
Oh,
in
Roosevelt
1860.
was much later then. Yeah, okay. Anyway.
When was Roosevelt? That was like Panama Canal stuff. This is the sort of knowledge that, like, I'm really excited to have kids to just nail this sort of fundamental knowledge.
Yeah.
Because I could totally see as a dad, like, when my child is going through school learning about the presidents, I make like my own adult flashcards for just memorizing all the presidents. I'm not just studying for the one test that they're going to study for. I'm going to like nail it down. And that's exciting.
Yeah. Roosevelt was in office, Teddy Roosevelt, 1901. So
1901. Oh, hold on.
Do you have another bad fact?
No.
Okay.
When was McKinley in office?
I have to look that up too.
Okay. I think Teddy Roosevelt, part of his story is like it was a weird situation where he got into office.
Yeah, McKinley died, he was in office September 14th, 1901, and Teddy Roosevelt was next.
Yes. Okay. It was McKinley was 1900. Okay. Yeah. Roosevelt was a really good guess. And if I had a better grasp of the presidents, like I hopefully will with kids, I would have had a better answer than just no. I would have said that was really close. Cool. How are you? What did you get up to this last week?
I'm doing all right. Now I'm looking up. Wait, I said McKinley died, but I want to make sure. Yeah, he died. Okay.
Was that the one who he like caught a cold during his inaugural address and then was just sick his entire presidency?
No,
there was
it says he was in office from March 1897 to September 1901.
Was he the?
Oh wait. Oh yeah.
Was he a vice president that came in? Why was it only a year?
I don't know. I'd have to read Wikipedia.
Okay.
My brother used to know all the presidents forward and backwards, and he also used to be able to do presidential math. So he could say like 12 plus 13, and he would do that in his head and then name that the president that was he used to be able to say like Roosevelt plus Lincoln, and then yeah.
That's a good mnemonic system. And then anytime you have to remember a number, you're just like, oh, where are we parked? We're on level B of McKinley.
yeah.
That's good.
Anyway. My week was okay. I got an A in advanced linear algebra.
Congratulations.
I wasn't sure I was going to get, but I ended up getting 100% on the final.
Wonderful.
So great. I'm done with that class now. So yeah, I appreciated especially the early part of the class because I feel like that gave me a lot of insight to a lot of linear algebra stuff that I didn't have before. But by the end of the class, it was like re-implementing algorithms that, already have a good default implementation in any linear algebra library. So it's like, yeah, all right, probably never going to need that. But that's all right. Yeah, so I did that. And since then, I have been doing Kaggle nonstop, trying to get my last gold. But I'm currently in 35th place. I need to be in 12th. So that's not great. There's a week left. And I'm not out of ideas, but I don't think I'm going to make it happen. So I'm still trying. But yep, that's how my week has been.
This is still the reverse description. You get the image and you describe what the image looks like. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have made some recent discoveries that are interesting. I wish I would have made, 2 months ago. But that's right. We'll see.
If only you had a 4th GPU.
I'm not even running both of them right now. I'm just running the one. So
okay.
Not even. Yeah.
I just want you to buy more GPUs. That's just
I know
the more GPUs you have, the happier I am.
I know. I discovered actually the GPU, the computer I got has, is this true, less RAM in it than GPU? It has 16 gigs of RAM, and I definitely need to up that because my kernel crashed a couple times because I ran out of CPU RAM, which should not happen. So I'm going to spend another $100 to update the RAM.
Would it make sense? So you have 2 of the identical computers that you just got. One of them's just a Stardew Valley machine. Can you be using that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can use that one.
So update both the RAM?
Yeah, probably. I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Have a little GPU cluster. This is something we touched on a little bit in the last episode, but like question of how you deploy a model is really interesting to me. Serverless functions exist as sort of this, like, I don't know where you go from here for traditional deployment, but there don't exist, as far as I know, serverless functions for AI model things. I'm curious how you deploy a model like that.
So there's several ways. And yeah, we sort of ran out of time before we talked about this. There's multiple ways to deploy. The problem with serverless functions and large language models is you have to load the language model from disk, you have to put it into RAM, and then if you want to move it onto the GPU, you have to do that. And that all takes time. So your serverless function goes from 10 milliseconds, to like a second or two, which is like bad. So if you have a giant model, the best thing to do is to just keep a server running all the time with the model loaded, and then have some queue that you just work through. So you can do that custom, but there are also like Hugging Face has a thing where you can load a model. Like it feels like serverless, but the model's running. There are other people who offer that. I don't know any of the other ones, but there are. Or you could just like use AWS. They have GPUs and load them up. You can also, for big giant models, so for like small models, you can run those on a CPU often and get pretty good inference times. So for like non-large language models, usually just a regular server is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I don't care about startup latency and I just want to be billed per millisecond of execution time on a GPU, and I don't want to pay the cost of running it full time, even though it'd probably be cheaper if I was using it that much. Is Hugging Face the solution for that? Can I just upload a model to them and then they charge me per millisecond?
I actually don't know how they're priced. So yeah, take a look at them. It's called like Hugging Face, either Spaces or Inference, or one of those two things, I think. Okay. Yeah.
I'm curious about that. But the thing I want, I think, is if I come up with a model, if I download a model and I train it on my own data, I want to be able to just update the weights to a service that's gonna, and maybe also I can specify like how quickly I'd like it to run. If I want it to run faster, I'm okay paying more. In the same way that with serverless functions, if I want more RAM or more CPU, I can pay more per millisecond. But then I want to not be charged anything if I'm not using it at all, and then I want to be charged per invocation or per millisecond that I'm using it. If that's what Hugging Face is, then I want Hugging Face.
Yeah, you might be able to. You can also, AWS is fine for that too, because you could just spin up a new instance. Oh, but that takes. Spinning up a GPU instance takes a long time.
Yeah, if it's like a new EC2 thing.
Yeah,
I don't want
so I'm
that.
not sure.
Okay,
not sure.
Okay, if you hear something like that, I'd be curious what it is. Cool. Any updates on the AI course? Have you thought about that at all?
Not really, because I've been doing a lot of the Kaggle stuff. I tried to think about it a little bit and realized while doing Kaggle, I have very limited bandwidth for anything else. So I do my job, and then I put the kids to bed, or like I have dinner, put the kids to bed, and I do Kaggle. And that's like my day.
Sure.
So that's what I've been doing. Yeah.
I'm excited for it. I stumbled on a few AI courses. One of them was recommended by a friend, and another one I think I found out about on Hacker News. And it's something I'm interested in, like getting to a point where I could be making my own models that are tuned in a certain way. That's a skill set that I see is going to be really useful. I don't have an immediate application for that skill yet, but I want to be able to do that.
Yeah. So I was going to pull on this a little bit because you are in my target audience, right?
Yeah.
So what last week you asked what the superpower I would give people is.
Yeah.
What is the thing you want to do? You mentioned training your own models, but like why, to what end, or yeah.
So a problem that I'm chewing on right now is how do I find interesting parts of a transcript to clip out in clips.
Right.
And I'm sure over the course of my life I'm going to have dozens of this category of problem, but this is the one right in front of me. And so right now the easiest way for me to solve that problem is figure out a prompt that I can feed into OpenAI's GPT-4 that will get me the results that I need. And improving on that solution for me right now looks like doing more prompt engineering or figuring out, is there some more clever way that I can do data processing beforehand, or maybe use a different service, or what I'm doing right now, which is like, use assembly to figure out what the chapters are, and then work with chapters, which are smaller chunks, and I can work more with those. And I could imagine getting enough data to be able to train a model that's more specialized. So for me, for this problem, that might look like take all of the Joe Rogan clips that have more than 10,000 views, figure out which podcast those came from, transcribe those podcasts like in my stream so that I have the transcription, and then note, okay, what part of this transcription did this clip come from that made it this popular clip that got at least 10,000 views. Now that's the training data. I could probably get, I don't know, 1,000 of those reasonably easily. And then one option I have for that is this is something I was looking into this last week. That could go into the fine tuning, I think is what they call it for OpenAI. Yep. You can upload basically a JSON file where its key value pairs. The key is the prompt that you're feeding into it, and the value is the expected value that you want. So I would feed into that AI. I would feed like the key would be just the transcript of the chapter that contained the clip that I knew was popular. And then the value would be just the segment of that clip that was the most interesting. And in fine tuning, my understanding with this, the way that this works is I don't need to give it any sort of explanation. I'm just saying, here's the input, here's the input, here's the output, figure it out. I'm going to give you a few hundred examples. Potential problem with that is it's much more expensive. It's something like 4 times more expensive than GPT-4. And it's a lot more work for me. And the end result is something that I'm still not in control of. But if I had as an option in my toolkit, hey, did you know that there's this cutting edge model that's not available in any sort of public API, but it is available in this much wider database of models that you can just download from this repository of models. And this model's called interestingness score or something. But you can't just use it out of the box because it's not quite what you want. But if you could just take that model and train it on the data that you have, or do something else with it, and then deploy it in this way that like it plugs into your application the same way that the OpenAI API would, I would love to have that tool in my tool belt. So it's for a use case that's like just outside of I've got to work to get it done on OpenAI or existing APIs. And this is theoretical. I don't know if a model like this actually exists, but if there existed a model that would make it much easier for me to solve this particular problem, but I would need to be able to do some work of some training and certainly deployment and integrating into my application. That's what I want to be able to do. Cool.
Thanks. I wrote down a few phrases. I heard specialized. I heard expensive. So OpenAI GPT-4 becomes expensive when you do it. Mm-hmm. You want control. You want to be able to use cutting edge models that may or may not have APIs. And the use of very specific models, which may end up being better than GPT-4 for specific problems.
Yeah.
Is that cool? That's good insight. Yeah.
Cutting edge, I found when you were saying those resonated particularly strongly with me. This idea that like, because in AI and in the space right now, having a leading edge is huge. Yeah. I went through some of the other applications in the space of AI generated clips this last week, and realized they're not good yet. So like, I uploaded the Steve Jobs commencement speech from Stanford from 2004 or something to 2 different AI ones, and I did it because I was sort of going through this. Could I train this based on clips that are already popular? And within the Steve Jobs commencement speech, there's a clip in there where he talks about death and viewing everything that you're doing through the lens of death. That's the clip from the commencement speech, and it's I don't know, like 2 minutes long, and clearly that's the part of it that humans care the most about. And neither one of the AI automatic detection clip things found it, and that's a problem, and that's an opportunity for me. That like I felt kind of reassured that like I was a little spooked by, oh my gosh, these people are like, they've got venture-backed money and they're so much bigger than me, but they can't find the clip in the Steve Jobs commencement speech. So like there's a huge opportunity for me there that if if there's a cutting edge model that can find that, but it's difficult to integrate that into an application, like that's a huge deal for me as a software, like making it as a service.
So I just had an idea for a feature. I am not your target market, so this may be a bad feature, but it's technically possible, which makes it interesting.
Okay.
So you uploaded this speech and you wanted the clip about death.
Yes.
Could you allow people to say, I know somewhere in this hour I said something about death. Could you pull out a clip about that for me? So like basically a topic thing. And then you could take it one step further and you could parse the transcript. You could say, I think you're talking about these 10 topics. Click on a button to make a clip about this topic. So that's how you can direct people to make the clips. Like you pull out general topics, they click on it, you make, 3 clips about that topic from their thing. Did that make sense? And
that does make sense. I think I don't know enough about. There's this concept of like doing embedding searches in the OpenAI API that I don't fully understand. Where like maybe I pull out, maybe I've pre-processed a bunch of potentially interesting clips from the episode, and I calculate the embedding for each of those clips that's the abstract concept of what the topic is.
Yep.
And then when people are searching, when they search for the word death, I turn death into an embedding, and now I calculate the difference between the embeddings of the word death or whatever their query was and the rest of the clips. I think that's technically possible, yeah. And that seems like it would be a good feature. Like that's a problem I've run into with this show. I've had this like I've seen a Twitter post or something and had this vague recollection of, oh man, there's a great conversation Chris and I had about it that I remember that happened some number of months ago, and I
somewhere
do
in the
not
last
remember
100
what it was.
episodes, right?
Yeah, that if I could just go somewhere and search for the concept and then have pulled out not just of one episode but of all my episodes, here's potentially relevant clips for what you're talking about right now. That feels like a killer feature. That's not. Yeah, this is not, version 0, but that's a really good idea.
This is often to feature land. Get something working first and people using it. But
yeah, for now the way to solve that is just, I have a plain text search, and if you search the word death, you're going to find that in the Steve Jobs speech.
That makes sense.
Just do it by episode, and then you can maybe I got it correct when I was doing AI suggested clips. But I think a killer differentiating feature of my thing is you can manually specify, like, no, this is the interesting part. This is what I want you to make a clip about.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Good. Thank you for the idea.
Cool. Also, what you talked about with embeddings, like embeddings are so powerful and underused because people don't understand them very well. I thought about making a whole course just about them. The problem is people don't even know what to look for like embeddings, like you do, because I've talked about embeddings before. But like, so if I did something like that, I would need to, I guess, come up with different use cases and like, highlight those and then be like, the tool you use is embeddings. But yeah, anyway, they could be a whole course just on their own, how to use embeddings.
I could see the sales pitch for that being maybe like, here's, you're going to teach me just enough AI so that I can maximally use OpenAI's API.
Yeah.
And you're gonna go deep. You're like, you're gonna tell me about the embeddings API. Because when I first saw that OpenAI had an API for embeddings, I was like, why? Because I think I was mistaking it for tokens. I was like, isn't this just a function that like a library that you download? But no, it has to run through the model, and then you get a whole bunch of numbers at the end of it, and that's the
which
same
you can
work
just do. Yeah, you can just do on your own servers too. OpenAI publishes older versions of their models that you can get the embeddings out of.
The weights of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. How old? What's the newest one that they've published?
I don't know. I'm using the Vision one right now for my competition. So that's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Huh. Neat. And noted. Note. I have 4 things I'd like to talk with you about today.
Cool.
The first is an update on the FileInbox growth audit by Asia Orangio of Demand Maven. High level, holy cow, this is great. I wish this had happened years earlier. And I think I don't know that I was ready for it years. No, yeah, it's happening. It's happening how I'd like it to happen. So we had our second call this last week. The first call was just her getting much more of a high level overview of the business, and I gave her a bunch of access to all the accounts, including ProfitWell. And then this last one we recorded because I talked with her about, you're doing this for me for free. I'd love to return value for you. So what if we turn this into a podcast and we can make clips and all that sort of thing? So it might get turned into a podcast at some point, or certainly clips that'll be on social media. But in that, she was digging much more into the specifics of things that she noticed in ProfitWell. One screen in particular was churn by cohort. And she was real gentle with how she showed this to me. She said, have you dug into any of the ProfitWell things? And I was like, nope, not really. She was like, do you know what churn by cohort is? And I was like, yeah, I know intellectually you calculate churn by, you're not just calculating overall churn, you're looking at for the users who signed up in January, what was their specific churn. So she showed me this graph where it was a grid of numbers and almost all the numbers were red. And she said, look at this. This is your churn by cohort. 50% of your users, 50% of your new users are churning in the first month. And you're only keeping like 28% of them or something after 6 months. How does that feel? And I said, that feels really bad. And she said, really? That feels bad? Talk to me about that. And I kind of like went into the details of why I felt bad. Like, it was kind of embarrassing. And she said, do you remember how you described your difficulty in this business, that you felt like, you would do a new marketing push and you would try it for a couple months and you'd feel like nothing would happen. And then you'd need to, you would go off to something else. And I was like, yeah, of course. And she said, this is why that's happening. It's happening because all the new users you're getting are just immediately churning out. So of course you feel like you're spinning your wheels because all the new users you're getting are just immediately leaving. And you thought the churn was like 4 to 6%, because that's what the overall churn is if you look at all my users, because I have these legacy users that have just been on this for years. And then I sort of swung around to it and was like, oh, hold on. Yeah, this is amazing. Like, this is the problem. I don't know if it's the problem. You found a problem. And it's a problem that directly explains the difficulty I've been having. And so now that we've identified the problem, okay, well, we can move forward from here. To figure out why new users are churning, that's a addressable question. You can get those people on the phone and you can do a mom test style interview and say, like, what were you expecting? Why did you, or was this just a short-term thing? And, maybe I have a different idea of what people want from this than they're actually getting. And they're just doing it for like 1 month long projects. Or maybe they're like, oh, I need this to be able to send files to my Dropbox. And I'm like, oh my God, I can do that. Why? What made you think that you can't do that? So yeah, that it feels like it's in a much more exciting place. So that was the first insight. And so then her homework for me for this week was, she wants to know trial to paid conversions, how many people are signing up for trials, and then what percentage of those sign up to be paid. Because the only numbers we were looking at are things for ProfitWell and Stripe that showed that there's like, 2 to 5 people per month that pay me. And then the second thing was, I think that was it actually. Was that it? Trial signups? Landing on the site versus signups. Like, how many people land on the site? What's the overall traffic, and then what percentage of those sign up for accounts? So I figured out that first number. Asia mentioned in the conversation that she's learning R, and I took a course in R, and I took a course in programming languages in college, and one of the languages we talked about was R. And with the help of ChatGPT, I was able to just export all of the user data from FileInbox. This is like 80,000 rows. And then I wrote her an R program to like answer that question and send her the data and send her the R program so she's able to see it. And found what I think is, I haven't talked with her about this yet, but I think it's another smoking gun of, in January, I had 80 people sign up for trials for FileInbox, and I had no idea it was that high. That was an anomalous month, but like the lowest month of trial signups for the last 6 months was like 40. So that's like, oh my God, I'm having 40 people just waltz into my application, sign up for an account, and then only 2 to 4 of them are actually paying me money. Like, there's something here. So, it feels really good. I feel like, she's so good. These are all things that I knew intellectually, and I knew of the concept of cohort trial conversions, but like, she's good. She knows what she's doing, and it really feels like I'm back on the right track.
That's cool. Yeah. My first thought was, it sounds like a really good therapist who will gently introduce a topic and let you come to conclusions about that topic, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I think you thought that traffic may have been the problem, and it sounds like it's not. At least not the first problem.
Yeah.
I'm also reminded of various talks in MicroConf in the years that say, fix your churn first before you ramp up spending or something on ads. Because if you just churn out all the people, then it's going to feel bad.
Yeah.
Which
I've heard a million times, right? I've been to those MicroConfs. I knew that intellectually. And I wasn't digging deep enough in the data. I was just looking at the high level, like, churns. I don't know what overall churn is. I think it's something like 4%. I was like, well, clearly that's not the problem. So let's increase traffic. And I've talked with people about this. I talked with a friend of mine who runs a successful business, and I was like, hey, can you help me figure this out? And he went through, like, he looked in my profit well and saw the same number of churn and was like, yep, you need to increase traffic here. And let's talk about doing more stuff with SEO. And so that's what I was doing for like 4 months, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was like, there's a mismatch. The way she phrased it was like, there's some amount of product market fit because people are paying for this and it's solving real problems. But 80 people coming into the application and 80 people signing up for trials for the application and 4 of those paying me seems like a huge opportunity. That I think the emotional resistance I had to this was just this surface level. It feels bad for me to look at this grid of a bunch of red numbers.
Right.
And I'm confident, if I was in a different mental state where I was hunting out that information and that felt good to see those numbers, I'm sure I would have stumbled on this much earlier. But it feels like a ton of progress. Feels like this is the thing I think I've been waiting 9 years for FileInbox, of figuring out, like, okay, here's the work I can be doing to actually be growing this as a business. So in the best case scenario, I think like FileInbox starts picking up, and this video clipping thing, repurpose engine starts growing at the same time. And it feels like that's where I'm going. It feels like progress is being made. Yeah.
Cool. There's a great Y Combinator startup school talk about growth, and trial to paid. Pay attention to that. And then also cohort churn is a big part of the talk, and not just cohort churn, but graphing cohort churn can show you if you're, and now this is for high growth startups, but it can show you if you're default alive or dead. Because if it basically starts, if your cohort churn means, like, you can extrapolate it out and you can see where your numbers are going to be. And at a big enough scale, like it's just math to show whether you're growing or whether no amount, you're going to plateau, basically. Yeah. No amount of growth hacks will get you over cohort churn. So
what's your intuition with that, with FileInbox? Because, like, what does it mean that overall churn is so low, but cohort churn is so high? Is like, did I have product market fit before and I've lost it?
It could. Yeah. It could mean the market has caught up to where the features that you have, and the people who are already on your service would have a high switching cost. So they just stay.
Yes.
But the people signing up, they're trying out 3-4 different services.
Yeah.
And maybe yours doesn't have the same features that another one does, so they just churn.
That would make intuitive sense to me, because the product as it exists, like the one deployed on FileInbox.com is one that basically hasn't been touched in 7 years. So of course
makes sense to me.
There was a bug I fixed last week where it was a really old. There was a bug in iOS version like 7 or 8 or something where if you didn't have certain attributes in your file input upload field, it would fail or crash the browser or something. So I put this hack on it so that it wouldn't do that. But then a more recent problem I've had is that iOS compresses the video when it uploads, and that's just existed forever. And I thought that was a limitation of how iOS uploaded photos. And I had someone complain about it and actually reach out to me about it and be like, hey, I'd stopped using the thing because the files were being compressed, which is something I'd heard from people before. But ignored it mostly, but like FileInbox is open again. I'm working on it. So I dug into it, and it was a 1-line change that then, okay, this version of iOS doesn't exist anymore. I don't need to think about it. Let's optimize instead for the iOSs that do exist. So, overnight it became more modern, and I'm probably going to uncover like dozens of things like that just, and it feels so good to have direction like that. And I think that's what I'm going to get out of these customer interviews of what's the reason why you chose someone else's product over mine? What's the reason you churned? What's the reason you didn't sign up for an account? Rereading the mom test is instrumental in that. Oh, and Asia's going to do those customer interviews with me for the first like 4 or 5.
Very cool.
I'd just be like a silent, like maybe coming in every once in a while, but yeah, similar to a therapist, I guess, right? It's someone there to like tell me when I've stepped out of bounds and I'm off the track and need to get back on. And then her framing
it's also
of it is, go ahead.
I was going to say it's accountability. It makes sure you actually do 4 or 5 calls because she's going to be on them with you.
Yeah. And then her framing of it is after I've done a few of these and she's corrected my technique and corrected the mistakes that I'm making that I don't know that I'm making yet, that I'm sure she'll tell me, I'll be able to just do this and then have systems in place where I can be routinely like getting those high quality signals of talking to people who I need to talk to. So yeah, feels really good. This feels like it's already been worth a significant portion of the $20,000 that she would usually charge for this. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah.
Feels good. 3 more things I'd love to talk about. How are we doing on time? We're doing great on time. Trig, my professional magician friend, messaged me yesterday with a fun project that there's a magical component to this that I won't talk about, but basically what he needed to be able to do was send messages from his phone to his laptop, like a string of text. He just needs to and then the computer needs to do a thing. It needs to run a script in response to that string of text. And he told me this in the morning on a 5-minute call, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a problem, and that doesn't have a straightforward solution because he needs to be able to do it like on a cruise ship where there's no internet, or in the Magic Castle where he'll be performing next week, which is so cool." So it was so interesting. The reason I'm talking about the story primarily is ChatGPT has changed my development process for this sort of problem. It like I'm consulting it at every level and every stage of the process, asking it like, what's your opinion on ways that I could do this? And okay, having a server running on the laptop seems like it's the best way to go. Can you please write for me a node server that does this? And that didn't work because of cores. Can you take care of cores and rewrite the script? And it rewrites it. And it was just delightful. Like, I love this new way of coding stuff. It feels like I have a junior developer working for me for pennies that writes code that's better than the code that I'm writing. And I still feel very engaged in this process because I'm directing it at a higher level, but like I've just been able to step up in what I'm able to do. So I was able to get this project for him done that pre-ChatGPT probably would have taken me, I don't know, days, like 4 days. I got it done in 3 hours, and it's better than the version I would have made. Like, it had fewer bugs, it needed less testing. It had better documentation because I was able to just like the part of it was Trig needed to install on his laptop AWS keys, which he's a not technical person, but like he knows the basics of using a command line. And it was able to just write for him out this 2 pages of instructions of exactly what to do and exactly where to go on AWS and exactly what to click on, including links within the thing. Like, amazing. I'm feeling incredibly optimistic about this AI future. Like, I was spooked about it for a while because it just felt like things were happening really fast, and it feels like things have slowed down maybe just a little bit when we get the bigger model of GPT-4 and when GPT-5 comes along. Like, still, like I'll probably feel spooked again, but for where we are right now, I feel like I've adapted to the tools that are available sufficiently enough that I'm able to take advantage of them. And I'm able to realize, like, oh my gosh, I can code so much faster. All my output is just so much higher that feels really cool and exciting. It's a cool time to be alive.
That's cool. And something I don't ironically feel like I've explored very much. Like I've tried it some, but yeah, I definitely haven't used it to that extent. And it's something I feel like I should do because everyone who doesn't is going to be left behind. But yeah, I haven't done it very much yet. Yeah, that's cool. I did see that. So Andrew Ng, who runs deeplearning.ai, maybe, yeah, and who's worked for Google and Baidu. He put out a free prompt engineering class. So prompt engineering for engineers or something like that.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I'd like to take that. I think I bookmarked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I think I should do. Yeah.
All of the time and money that I've invested so far in AI stuff has paid dividends. I think, man, like the world has changed. It's like we're alive for the invention of calculators and everyone's still doing math by hand. Like,
right.
There's a new world. there's a rethink all the your previous practices of really just rethink everything you're doing. Oh, this goes perfectly as a perfect segue into the next thing I want to talk about.
Cool.
So food has been something I've been wanting to systematize for a long time that I feel like I've never quite gotten there with. I figured it out for myself for different periods of my life. So like I'm perfectly happy eating exactly the same thing most days, and having like frozen vegetables and sausage is a pretty good mix, and I can throw greens in there and just like have that consistently every day, and like a smoothie, and I'll make the same smoothie every day. And I'm a family man now. I need to be thinking about how to also be making food that Sarah finds appealing, and future children when I have them. This is a good time to announce this on the show. I wasn't planning this. Sarah is pregnant, and she's due in October. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, it's very exciting.
I feel like we should have led with that, but yeah.
Probably. Yeah, it's so exciting. I'm excited and terrified is the line I've been telling people. Baby's super healthy. Heartbeat strong. Yeah, it's something I've wanted for as long as I can remember, and I'm seems like an incredible responsibility, and I'm really excited. Anyway,
let's just slide that announcement in there.
We've been talking about this for a long time, so we just haven't talked about it on the show. So yeah.
I have. I will say, like, I have seen you, talk about it for the last few months, and like, you just seem very excited every time you talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm happy about your excitement level. It's great.
Yeah, and the element of this that I'm currently thinking about the most is like this food element. But so we're thinking about trying to get food to a place where we're not where it's systematized and we don't really have to think about it, especially like in the first few months of having an infant. That's something that we're just hearing across the board. It's a really difficult time. That the more stuff you can push off your plate, the better. So Sarah found this maid service that's fantastic and affordable to come in. So like that's great. The cleanliness of the place is set up and locked and loaded. That feels good. And for food, we're one of the things we're experimenting with right now is hiring a private chef, which just feels so luxurious. And it is, and it's great.
Yeah.
So this guy that she found, it's from the service called Friend Who Cooks, I think, came in the first week and asked us about, what sort of food preferences do you have, and how much food would you like, and making sure that we have all the stuff we need in the kitchen. And then the second week he came, he did an inventory of the kitchen, saw what we had, saw what ingredients we had, and what he needed to buy, and told me the menu. Like, okay, what are you thinking? We'd like salmon and some rice with peas, and the chicken dish, and this other meat dish. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. He's Jamaican, and so he made like this Jamaican curry beef stew. So good. Cool. And everything else he made was so good too. Sarah was eating the rice. Like, how did he make rice taste so good? So the only downside of this is it's really expensive.
Yeah.
And, for his time for making these 4 dishes, which, it was like 50% of the food that we ate in the week then. We're paying for groceries also, obviously. So groceries were like $100, and then his time was like $250. And that's just like, oof. If we're doing that every week, that's a lot more money than we could be spending on food. So we asked him, like, could we be getting the groceries for you? Could we, like, we're talking with my sister and brother-in-law about, could we split the cost of it and have it make twice as much, because making twice as much isn't going to take twice as much time. Right. So I was thinking all about this yesterday, and started thinking more about this idea that we talked about months ago of how to just like better automate the process of making interesting food. And because like recipes exist, and there's recipe databases and recipe APIs, and food grocery delivery things exist where you can just tell them, here's the food that I need, and deliver it to my back door. And the process of actually assembling it, once all that stuff is put together, I actually really enjoy. It's, I play video games where cooking is the point of the video game. You're like chopping up vegetables for monsters, and it's a really cool VR game called Overcooked, where you're making sandwiches for like werewolves and stuff. You chop up the tomatoes and you put the tomatoes on the bread, and you got to toast the bread, and it's great. So like that part of it I really enjoy. That could just be my podcast time. So I was trying to think about like, how might I devise a system where the work that he's doing of the grocery shopping and the figuring out what to cook, and then also like based on what you want to cook, what you have and what you need to get, and then I'm fine doing the cooking stuff of it. And then maybe that's something that we could outsource later for much cheaper, that we just find someone who's, a line chef at a restaurant. We just say, okay, here's the ingredients, here's the recipes we want you to make. So make it. And so I was playing around with the same sort of ChatGPT system. Do I develop an application that can go and scrape the recipes? And then none of the grocery delivery places have APIs, which sucks. But you had said the last time we talked about this, maybe you'll be able to figure out, just based on the JSON going back and forth, can you hack your way into getting an API? So I was looking into doing that. And in the process of that, I found that for Central Market, which is a subsidiary of HEB, they have on their website a list of recipes that's like 31 recipes of pages and pages, hundreds of recipes. And so I went through that and I was like, this is cool. Oh, maybe it's like the Whole Foods one where it's just suggestions of it, but you can't actually order it. But Chris, on each recipe, they got like a high quality photo, they got a description of it, and then they have an add all ingredients to your shopping cart button. And I don't know why every grocery store doesn't have this, but it's exactly the service I wanted. So I just went through all the 30 pages of recipes and found the ones that fit this criteria that I'm looking for, of like, needs to be something that can be made in batch, that can be reheated, that you can have in your fridge for 4 days, and when you pop it in the microwave, it'll still taste good, and it like fits with the general dietary stuff that we're looking for. And I got from this like probably 100 recipes. A lot of it's stuff that's really similar to the stuff that the private chef has been making. And I think this solves my problem, because I think now the routine is, for the week, I pick 4 of these things. Maybe I pass it by Sarah. Most of the difficulty and complexity of that's been done, because I'm just picking stuff from a list, and I've already pre-vetted it. Any 4 things on the list would probably be great. So that's like now at the point where it's almost the same level of interaction that we're having with the chef. And then I say, either pickup or delivery. The grocery store is like a 5-minute walk away from us, so I could totally see just walking to pick it up if I want to save another $20. And then here's another breakthrough I had. I can take a list of the recipe for multiple. I can take a list of the steps, like the instructions for multiple recipes, and paste all of those into ChatGPT and ask it to combine them and parallelize them. Yeah, that's right. So that I'm doing them all in parallel. And now it's a game, right? Now it's just, okay, for solving this problem of food. I haven't actually done this yet. This is I think right. the way that I'm framing this problem right now, is I just go on, pick 4 things I want to make for the week, boop, 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 add them to the cart, do a really rough check through the list of like, do I have any of these things already? Oh, onions, we'll take the onions off because I have a bunch of onions. Okay. Place for pickup at this time. So that's taken me, 5 minutes. Now I go back to work, boo, 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 I'm doing work. And now I either go up to pick up the groceries, or they get delivered. So that part is mostly automated. I'm going to go on the walk anyway. That's a thing that, if I was making 10 times more money than I'm making right now, I would still want to be going for walks. Now I take all the groceries, I bring them inside. I have ChatGPT give me the instructions that I can follow that's parallelized and taking advantage of like my oven's already preheated at this temperature, and it's doing that complicated work of figuring out how to do it. So I can just shut my brain off, listen to some podcast or an audiobook, and just go chopping and making stuff. And then the output of that, now that I've seen the private chef's output, where it's just, the end result is 4 really big family style Tupperware containers of the pre-made food. I know that's the output I'm going for. So I'm just, bumbling through to that output. And then I have that. I feel like I've had fun because I've been doing physical stuff. That's a nice break from doing programming stuff. I've also been listening to audiobooks and not really thinking too hard about this. I think, even if I'm making 10 times more money than I'm making now, I think I would still be wanting to do that. I would want to have some sort of physical break from doing more of this higher level, like intellectual, businessy sort of work. And then I think I've solved food. So yeah, that felt like a pretty big breakthrough. I've been talking for a long time. What are your thoughts on this whole food situation?
That's cool. Yeah, I've heard people hiring chefs before. It is expensive, but also the output's great. I think there's 2 intermediate steps before you go to the full-on automated bit that you did. One is I've heard of services where they essentially do batch private chef cooking for many families and then just deliver the food. So it's like it's about as expensive as going out to eat, but you get home cooked meals delivered to you. I think the selection is not like you get whatever they make that week. So you have to be non-picky. So that's one. And then one that we found is around here, I think mostly any big city has these, which are essentially meal prep services for you, where they'll do the private chef thing. And then you can just walk in and pick up frozen, like single portion frozen things. And so we found a great place near us. It's about $10 a portion, which is kind of expensive, but it's cheaper than going out usually. But it's probably 3-4 times more expensive than making it yourself, but it's ready for you. It's frozen and in the freezer. So we've replaced about half of our meals with those. Like anytime we have like stuff like for the kids that night or whatever, then we'll just do that. And then any night where we have a little bit more time, that's when we can actually do the cooking. So that's helped a little. Yeah. Not quite as good as fresh made meals, but still really good, better than grocery store frozen. But for those days that we do cooking, because we don't want to spend $10 per portion, per day. That's a ton. So, yeah, you still have to plan it and everything. So that sounds awesome. I'm very interested to hear how your whole system turns out.
Same. I'm curious about the first service you suggested of like private chefs that just cook and batch for multiple families.
Yeah.
Do you know what one of those are called, or how I might find one of those? I haven't looked into that.
So I have. The way that I've seen or have heard about people getting on them is they advertise on Facebook groups, and you have to like message them, and it's all very like manual, and like there's no websites. It's like some chef who wants to do this in their kitchen. That's mostly what I've heard of. Okay. So you have to be like looking for them on Facebook or know someone who's already in them. That, by the way, is how we found our cleaner. We got a cleaner also once I got like a, it's not a service. It's just one person that like does it. But that didn't cost as much as I expected and is a great life improvement. Yeah, it does cost money, but it's not as much as I expected. And it's great. She cleans for an entire morning, like once every 2 weeks. And then we have a clean house every 2 weeks.
Cool.
So,
We initially hired a cleaner through a service, and the service is great because, they have SEO. You can find the service. They're not hidden in a secret relationship in a Facebook group or something. But it was so much more expensive, and the quality of the cleaner was not very good. And
they hire, and they have turnover and stuff.
Yeah. They were also really picky about like, I can't clean the countertops if there's a thing on the countertops. So Sarah was like, we have to clean before the cleaner comes. Like, this defeats the whole purpose. I don't know how she found the cleaners that we have now, but like, they're great. It's these 3 women that come in and they just clean everything. And you walk into the room afterwards, and it just smells so nice. And they'll fold laundry, and they'll make the bed, and they'll tidy your stuff. And that's great. Yeah. So if I could find the equivalent of what we have now, it feels like is, because we went through the service, we have the equivalent of getting the cleaner through the agency. So there's a lot of overhead of, I'm sure he's not seeing most of the money that we're paying towards the service. What I'd love is to figure out like, what are the Facebook groups? Who are the people who would be doing this more at cost? If we could get this exact service, but it was $100 a week.
Yeah.
I think I would totally do it.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of like chefs who want a secondary source of income.
Yeah.
So they'll like every Saturday they'll make a big batch of stuff. Yeah, and whatever. And they're way cheaper than a service probably.
Something I'm trying in parallel is
tricky to find
there's a culinary institute by us. It's like the Art Institute. It's
Culinary Institute of the Arts, CIA.
It's not that one. It's AI
Okay.
is the moniker, which I thought was funny, but it's based out of
Culinary
Miami.
Art Institute,
It has a really long
CAI?
name. It's the Art Institute of Miami at Dallas or something like that. I found a list of their professors and found the one who teaches at the culinary school, and had trouble finding her contact information, but I found her on LinkedIn, so I tried to message her on LinkedIn. I'll see if something comes of that. Going on Facebook groups, I'm not a part of any Facebook groups at all. Like I don't use Facebook.
So now that you're having a kid, I don't use Facebook either, but my wife's on a bunch of mom groups, and that's where I see a lot of these, or that's where she sees a lot of threads about stuff like that.
Like local mom groups.
Yeah.
Okay. I need to get into some of those mom groups, I think. Okay.
Also, Nextdoor might be an interesting place to do that. I don't know if you're on Nextdoor, but it's essentially a local social network.
Yeah.
So you can even make a post saying what you're looking for. Does anyone have?
That's a really good idea. Yeah, most of the posts I see on Nextdoor are just about people complaining that people stole their Amazon packages.
Yes, that's or the one we get around here is I saw a coyote. Make sure your pets are inside.
Yeah,
we get those all the time.
That's good. Yeah. Okay, that's another good place to push this forward. Post on. Oh no! Oh my goodness, that's wrong. Okay, I'll make a note afterwards. It's fine. Cool. Last thing I want to talk about is Blue Sky. Because people were mean to me, and I want to talk about it.
On Blue Sky.
On Blue Sky. So
we talked about this last time.
Yeah, we did, and I want to talk about it again because they were mean to me.
All right.
They were mean to me yesterday. It felt bad. This is gonna be difficult for me to talk about because like I don't want to repeat what happened yesterday, which was I feel like the thing I was trying to say getting misinterpreted as being racist, or like not woke. So that's the framing for this. So there was a post on Blue Sky. I was just flipping through Blue Sky, feeling kind of disappointed that this giant post I did on this cool thing in the R programming language didn't get more upvotes, but whatever. And someone had posted something along the lines of, "Hey, if anyone has extra invites, share them with Black women because Black women make this community 10,000% better." And I read that and was like, "Oh yeah, wow. Hold on, wait a minute. Is that racist? Is that like why Black women? Why not Black men? Why not any of the other sorts of marginalized groups?" I'm curious about this. I'd like to open a discussion with this person. So I posted something along the lines of like, I'm curious why you're calling for Black women in particular. And I felt like this was very like tame in the objective sense of things, but I felt like I was just getting dogpiled on of people like reposting it and people saying I was an idiot. And I feel like the assumption was that because I was asking that question, I was rabble-rousing, saying that we shouldn't have more Black women on the platform, which was not what I was saying. I'm asking the question of why this person chose the but it was a lot. And I think I did a really good job of not reacting and not like replying to every single post that was saying something mean about me and trying to defend myself. But I noticed I was feeling a lot of intense feelings and it felt really bad. And then there was a person on the platform who actually responded, who said like, there's this theory of within feminism that has to do with, I forgot the name of it, but the idea is the more perspectives you have, especially from marginalized people, the better the community that you have, because you're just getting more perspectives and more of a diverse viewpoint. And so this person and I were able to have a pretty constructive back and forth, because I was saying like, yes, I understand that, but like why Black women? But like, are they for some reason, like are they being especially marginalized on this platform, or do they have particular insight into being marginalized in society? And we were able to come to it like a pretty good understanding of like, oh, okay. I think the core thing I was misunderstanding here is it seemed like the original poster was saying, invite Black women above all other minorities, but probably what he was just saying is, here's one marginalized group and let's lift them up today, and then tomorrow we may lift up a different marginalized group like sex workers or something. So it feels good, but it felt so bad in the intermediate time when all these people were saying I was racist and bad, and I didn't like that, and I think it's tainted my perception of Blue Sky as like the zeal with which people were doing it. Felt echo chambery in the way that I have heard Twitter described as echo chambery, but perhaps from a different political perspective. So I don't know. I ended up having a good discussion, but the overwhelming sentiment of people on Blue Sky seems to be one that I find really distasteful, of like jumping to conclusions without working to understand where other people are coming from, and I don't like that.
Yeah. So the first thing I thought of is, oh, you mean like 180 characters is not enough to, talk about nuance?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what happened to Twitter. Nuance on the internet in text is very difficult to get across, especially when you have limited characters or limited screen real estate. So the charitable interpretation of the other people is that they misunderstood what you were trying to say, or you said it in a way that they've been triggered by before.
Sure.
And the correct response would be to gently correct you, not to pile on, right?
Which some people had.
That's just what happened.
There was the conversation I had where I felt like this person was genuinely wanting me to working to help me better understand. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And in general, so not talking about any specific conversation or political side right now, the way to, if you think someone is doing something wrong, the way to correct them is not to yell names at them, but to sort of gently engage in conversation with them, which is very difficult to do on the internet, Twitter or otherwise. It is generally why I participate less in social media now than I used to. And it's why I definitely don't engage in any conversation that I think might have some layer of nuance. So so personally, like I just don't, I wouldn't even ask the question, which is unfortunate, but that's how it is. It's, I don't know how much more I have to say about that, but it's very difficult to convey nuance on the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. In that respect, I think I feel, I think I'm cementing my opinion of Blue Sky as that it's just another Twitter, but it's new, and it's kind
of like
it's not like
what we talked about last time.
Yeah. It's not like fundamentally. I don't know that I'm convinced that it's solving any underlying problem that Twitter got wrong. I think one of the things you said last time is like the humans haven't changed. Like the
right, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't have any answers, but the internet kind of sucks for communication, which is funny. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's all.
Cool.
I will say, like, long form podcasts, like we're doing right now, I feel like are a pretty good antidote to that. There's a lot of room for nuance when you're listening to us for an hour. I feel like I can fully explain myself. It's much more than 280 characters. So in that respect, I feel like doing things like repurpose engine, that feels like the highest impact way that I can be solving this problem, because that's encouraging a medium that is much more nuanced, that I think is much healthier. And it's a perfect bridge for people who are on the less nuanced mediums. If they're on TikTok or Twitter, you only have room for 180 characters. I can take little tastes of the longer discussion and feed them out there in the same way that when you're at the mall and the person at the Chinese restaurant comes out with a little plate of the taste of the orange chicken, and then you're like, oh yes, I would like more of that, and then you can go have the full meal. It's leading people out of the cave, to steal from Plato's allegory, into a healthier place that I feel like is these long form discussions. I think long form podcasts have become my favorite type of social media. I think there's a lot more beef to it than you get with just posts.
Yeah, I think so too. It's also why I like YouTube videos, even for simple things. Like some people hate learning from videos, but I really like it because just seeing the person's face, or even if they do explainer style videos, like the inflections in their voice and stuff like that, can really tell you a lot more about something than just reading a wall of text.
Yeah.
That famously, sarcasm is extremely, extremely difficult to get across in text.
Yeah.
Whereas in voice, it's second nature to understand that. So yeah, that's just one example of why text is hard.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that was a fun connection to make. I do feel like I'm making the world better with doing this repurpose engine stuff. That also feeds into that sort of long form YouTube video. Yeah, it's much more nuanced, much more information that you're getting watching or seeing a person talk for a longer time than you would get from the short sound bites or yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it also drives connection in a way like that we have humans have evolved for a long time to look at someone and talk to them. Not writing was only 10,000 years old or something. So and only really when the Gutenberg press became widely available was it like actually a thing. So yeah, we have less than maybe 1,000 years of actual experience as a species with it. So
yeah. It's weird. We didn't evolve in an environment to prepare us for this
right
type of information dissemination. Cool. Anything else?
Nope.
Then that's all I got. Then I will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.